Hey there, Falcons. It's McKenna again. Today we have an important topic for many of you as you begin a new job: salary negotiation. This is a topic that is probably brand new to many of you as you accept your first full-time job. And it's totally fair to not know where to start in the conversation. Should I negotiate? Shouldn't I negotiate? If I do negotiate, will they take back their offer? Today, the employer panel is going to answer all of those questions and more so that you can feel more confident in the negotiation process to make it rain. I have one of my favorite humans joining me today, and we're just going to dive into the topic and hopefully make you more confident in the salary negotiation process as a result of our time together. So Renee, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Renee Frey. I am actually a alum of UW River Falls. I graduated there. I won't tell you the year because it'll give away my age, but I run a company called TalentQ in Hudson, Wisconsin, where we help employers find their future employees and we help job seekers get pay raises and promotions. So I'm so happy to be here today.
She is amazing at what she does, Falcon. So connect with her on LinkedIn as well.
Please do.
So Renee, I think with salary negotiation, one of the trends that we routinely see would be students just so unsure of the salary negotiation process. Should I negotiate? Shouldn't I? If I do, how do I do it? Because for most of them, they've never had an opportunity to do that. So, what factors, let's start on the company side. What factors go into calculating the initial offer on the company side?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into salary negotiation on the company side. So, location and geography, where the company is located, goes into what they're going to be offering for a competitive salary. So, for example, we'll just say if you are applying for a position in Minneapolis versus a position in Seattle, obviously in Seattle, you're going to need more money because the cost of living is so much higher than Minneapolis. So, location and geography is one factor. Another factor that goes into how companies determine the salaries they're offering for positions is by the size of the company. So, a lot of times, smaller companies don't have as much resources as a larger organization. So, those Fortune 500 companies tend to have higher salaries. They have greater resources. For example, in the Twin Cities in particular, I know from experience the two highest paying companies are United Health Group and Target Corporation. And those are some of the two biggest companies we have here in the Twin Cities. And then lastly, when a company is figuring out what they can pay for each position is internal equity. So companies have set pay ranges that they need to stay within for that position. And that they factor in what the current employees in that role, what they're making. That's internal equity. And they want to make sure they keep those salary ranges so they stay within that when they're bringing new people into the org. Because then if you go beyond that salary, then you would be getting a promotion.
That makes so much sense. How frequently do you find that a salary range is posted in a job description?
I would say not often. However, with social media, with LinkedIn and Indeed, certain websites now they kind of pull averages from other resources so they can guesstimate what the salary is going to be. But
Mhm.
I would say most of the times, I don't think companies are posting it on their career websites what they want to pay for the position.
I wish they would. It would just make everything easier. No, I'm just
It
kidding.
would, it would. But you know, at the end of the day, what you make at a company is confidential. And so they don't want to post that out there.
Totally.
You know.
That's fair. Um, okay, so from a student perspective, how do they learn how much they need to make to pay their bills?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that because every single one of us have a different financial situation. We have different financial obligations that we are committed to. So the first thing, you have to know all of your existing expenses for sure. And I know, McKenna, you help coach people on this all the time. So why don't you jump in and share kind of the methodology behind calculating how much you would need for your expenses?
Sure. So, Falcons, um, the bills that you pay right now, you know what those are, but maybe you're getting some help on some of your other bills um, from other family members or individuals. Upon graduating, if you're going to be taking on additional bills, we need to know what those expenses are. So asking that question early would be important. The other thing that we need to do is look at the geographics around where you want to be after graduation. So we can't just assume that the rent you're paying, maybe in River Falls, is what rent is going to be post graduation if you're entertaining a change in location. So we have to look up averages for housing expenses in the areas that you're entertaining, facilitating your job search around. The other thing that would be really helpful to do is set up a time to meet with a financial aid counselor. So for any of you that will have student loans that'll come due 6 months after graduation, those payments will start. And if you wanted to take some time now to meet with a financial aid counselor, they can give you a rough estimate about what your payments will look like. So come 6 months from now, that's not an additional surprise. You can plan for it now. Also, paycheckcity.com is a really awesome resource. I remember, well, and still to this day, to factor in or calculate the taxes that are taken out of your paycheck. I'm real bad at that. And so I always like divide my annual salary by 12 and I'm like, oh, look at all the money that I'll have. And that's not accurate. So paycheckcity.com can be a really great resource. It accounts for all the different states. So if you are planning a relocation, you can just set to whatever state. And then you put in your annual salary and you can set it to monthly so that you know how much you will have on a monthly basis after taxes. And then that'll allow you better budgeting on the front end. So one of my favorite resources, hands down. I think those would be the big things for now. But then also, Falcons, just know that Career Services is open year round, and we serve our alums for free. So if you find yourself in the midst of a salary negotiation in the middle of the summer, we're here for you, and we're a phone call or an email away.
Great resources, McKenna. And I can actually attest to the resources because I went back after 2 years to ask for career services help too. So definitely utilize those free resources.
Air 5, thanks for the support. Okay, Renee, how do I find fair market value for the positions that I'm applying to?
Yep, there's a ton of resources online where you can find kind of those estimate salary ranges for the experience that you have, the type of position you're looking for. My favorite resource is salary.com. super user friendly. You basically go onto the website and you just click through and answer the questions, and it'll populate kind of a salary range. It goes from low to median to maximum. And that's really a great gauge on how to find out, with the experience that you have, what kind of salary would be comparable to the experience you're bringing to the table. And then McKenna's got great resources and data from the average salaries that UW grads make.
So right now, we're working on publishing the first destination survey results from last year. So Falcons, for the graduates from 2019, 2020, the average salary for a Falcon was $45,934. So that would be a number to just have kind of in your back pocket. If you're interested in additional data points, we would have additional information with averages by each of the 4 colleges that we'd be happy to share, and that information will be published probably within the next month, but we would have that available to you now too.
That's great information to have in your back pocket when you are negotiating for your salary.
Well, and then to just be able to kind of use that as a, like, okay, am I relatively close or am I so far away that then it provides maybe a little more comfort in being like, no, this is something I want to negotiate. The other thing that our office will use for that first position would be, if you're being offered fair market value, we would say your negotiating power for that first position would be 5%. If you're negotiating kind of over that 5% threshold, that might be a little steep for that first position, but that's dependent on the experience and what you bring. So that would be another way that, or another tool to have in your back pocket when you're trying to calculate what you may want to negotiate. But that only applies if it's a fair market value offer. If it's a lower offer, then the 5% wouldn't apply.
Great tips.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things we hear all the time is that students are being asked about their salary requirements earlier in the process. So sometimes they're being asked in the online application. Sometimes they're being asked a question in an interview. So how do they handle that?
Yeah, I would say be as forthright as you can on the application. So if you're looking for around a certain amount, don't just put not applicable, put an amount in there. So some of the averages that McKenna has shared, just pop that number into there. You can always negotiate. That doesn't have to be the end all be all because you put it in your application, but you don't want to leave any fields blank because then it becomes a red flag to the person on the other side. So you want to put something in there. Now, in the past, it used to be commonplace for employers to ask what you're currently making. However, this has created pay disparity between women and men and minorities. And so to close that gap, several states and cities have enacted salary bans where they're not allowed to ask you what you're making today. Now, that might not apply to some of you graduates because you might not have been working previously, but this is really important to know because the salary ban is based on cities and states. So it's the state that you live in or the state that you're going to work in. Both of those apply. So it's a really tricky thing. But I can, share all the information I have on it. There's a lot more states that are a part of it now. This started back in 2019, and I thought it would sweep the nation, and it hasn't. It's been a really slow progression. Going back to what you're looking for, they can certainly ask you what you want to be making. That is a totally legal and fair question. I would be totally honest, and how I would position it is share the research you've done and ask for that amount. So, I've looked at the data in the marketplace and the range is X, but you can also say, I'm willing to be flexible as I learn more about the position and responsibilities. Because as you learn about a position and company, your salary expectations might go up or down based on what you're learning about the responsibilities and what you're actually doing in the job. If it's a super demanding position, you might want to ask for a little bit more. So just be sure to state what you're looking for, but then also say, you do have some flexibility.
What if, could a student use a range if that field in the online application would accept more than a certain number of characters? Would a range be appropriate, or is it always best to do a single dollar amount?
It depends on the fields and the technology they're using, if it would accept it. I personally would, if I was going to look for a position, say I wanted the average that you said, the 43,500, I would put 43,000 with a plus at the end. I don't know if that's going to trigger in their system. You could use a range, but I have a feeling a lot of those fields are going to be pretty finite.
Sure. Okay, great. So when it gets to the point of negotiating, we know salary can be negotiated. What other items have you seen people be successful at negotiating?
Virtually, you can negotiate anything. So I would say, to get really specific, obviously, McKenna pointed out salaries, obviously the most obvious, but you can negotiate vacation and PTO. You can also negotiate working remotely or working remotely specified days of the week. Like, can I work remote Monday and Wednesdays? You can negotiate parking for them to pay for your parking, for the company to pay for your bus or your transportation if there's the metro or the light rail. You can also negotiate for a signing bonus. And another thing you can negotiate for is performance reviews. Like, hey, I know I'm starting at the entry level. Can I have a review in 6 months where my pay could be reevaluated based on performance, or end at 12 months? These are all types of things you can negotiate. And then the last thing that I would point out is relocation assistance. Typically, you can negotiate relocation assistance as well.
Awesome. So if a student finds themselves getting an offer, and some of these items just aren't even talked about, if they take some time and kind of think through what they need or what they would want, it's okay for them to initiate the conversation around some of these items like relocation or a metro pass, or even like professional development funds. If nothing's talked about it, a student could say something, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you don't ask for it, you'll never get it. So definitely anything is fair game.
Okay. I mean, what's the worst they're going to say? No, and then you're back at square one where
Yeah.
you were, but at least you didn't leave anything on the table. And a couple months down the road, you're like, dang, I wish I would have.
Exactly.
Okay, so a student, well, let me start over.
Well, hold on. Let me go back because
Yeah.
keep in mind with what's negotiable, there are some companies that won't negotiate some of those items. For example, when I worked at Target Corporation, you had to move a mountain to negotiate vacation. So that was kind of set in stone. So even though you can ask for it, it doesn't mean that they're going to be flexible on the other end, but at least you bring it up and then you'll find out their approach with it.
That's such a good point. Like even at UW River Falls, based on your position, there's a certain set amount of vacation that you get, and that's not always negotiable. So
Yep.
that's a good pointer. For some companies, it's based on your years of service. And so that would just, but that's good understanding for the students to have too, to find out what is the vacation system based around,
Yep.
so that they understand when they may be able to get more down the
Right.
road.
And there may be some that do have the ability to be flexible with it. So I just wanted to make sure you keep that in mind.
Great. What should be a student's or graduate's approach or method after they get an offer?
Yeah. So communicate. And so if it depends on the method that the company is presenting you an offer, I hope that they're doing it verbally via phone or via video and sharing their excitement for you to join that team. And then I would say, it's customary to expect a formal offer letter via email for you to review. So responding and acknowledging, to the email, like, thank you so much, I'm going to review the information. But when they first present it, if it is verbally or via video, definitely share your excitement and that you're going to, I'm going to review the information. If I have questions, who should I reach out to if you're not sure who your point of contact is? There are times where you might be dealing with the hiring manager. There are times you might be dealing with the HR representative or whatnot. But definitely be proactive throughout. And I want you guys to make sure you are sharing proactively that throughout the entire job search process, if you are exploring and interviewing with other companies, this isn't a bad thing. This is great because you know what companies want? They want the people that all the other companies want too. So if you're actively interviewing and you just let them know, I have some other opportunities on my plate, but let them know throughout so this information isn't hitting them after they're presenting an offer. You want them to know you've got other things in the works. So don't try to hide it. It's totally acceptable to be honest and tell the truth in that.
Mm-hmm. And that can even help in when asking for more time.
Yes.
If you're trying to balance multiple processes and one company's running ahead of another, it's okay to ask for more time so that you can see through the other process and be able to make that best decision for yourself.
Absolutely. And there are times if, say, you're interviewing at company A and company B, and company A gives you an offer, the second they send you that offer, you want to communicate to company B and let them know. Say, hey, I want you to know that I did receive an offer from company A. So if there's anything we can do to expedite the process, I'm still very interested in the opportunity you have available. What that can do is maybe speed up company B so you can then evaluate both offers at the same time, because if there's too much time that passes, if company A gives you an offer, usually you can say, I want a week to think about it. That's usually enough time or good enough time where companies will be okay. They might go to 2 weeks. It really depends, because once you have been given an offer, then the employer is starting to evaluate on your decision-making process. So if it's taking you 2 weeks to make a decision, they might start to get turned off. And then they're thinking, well, Jane can't make a decision, an effective decision quickly. Like, what is holding her back? So when you have multiple opportunities you're exploring and you do receive an offer, that's where you've really got to communicate with all parties so that you can try to evaluate all the offers and expedite through the process with some of the other companies. Now, if going back to company A and B, if B isn't able to expedite you through the process, you are going to still need to make a decision within about a week if you want to work at company A. So that's where it gets kind of dicey. But if you're forthright with employers from the start, they are understanding. They're very understanding, and it's all about communication.
Absolutely. I remember a story from a couple years ago where a student was asked about their interview, where are you interviewing or what is your job search looking like? And in their head, they thought their responsibility in that moment was to make that company feel like a priority or feel like they were the one and the only. And so at that point, they shared, nope, this is the only interview I have, when in fact they had 11 other interviews coming
Oh my God.
up. And so then when it got to the end of the process and they did receive an offer from that company, when that individual went to ask for additional time because of wanting to navigate other processes, the company was floored and said, well, that's why we asked you that question in the first place. So the more proactive and honest, just like Renee said at the beginning, that can prove to be beneficial in the end because you were open and honest and genuine and authentic through the whole process.
Absolutely. And then I want to circle back. So when you do get an offer, the most important thing, if you want that position, or if you don't want that position, take time to review the offer and all the details that they send you. It's going to be overwhelming. There's going to be a lot of information. There's probably benefits. There's so much information. Sit down though and take the time to read through every single word, maybe if not twice, read it through twice so you have a full understanding. And then if there's something that you want to negotiate, now's your chance. This is the best time to ask for what you want because the employer has said, hey, we want to hire you. We love you. We want you to join our team. And then the advantage in negotiation has now switched to you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I remember getting my first job offer and reading all that benefit information. It was like a vocabulary lesson for me. It was so many words I had never heard of before. I was like, I don't know if I need this. So it's also okay to follow up with some questions too, Falcons, so that if there's terminology in there that's new to you and you have no idea, it's appropriate to also ask for clarification before accepting as well. Okay, so how should a student structure their response, or what language should they be using in this process?
Yeah, so if you want to there are items you want to negotiate, definitely do it live via phone or video and communicate in person with that individual. And if you're going to negotiate, I want you to detail out everything you want to ask for, right? So say, for example, say a company offered me $40,000 with 7 days of PTO, and I sat down and evaluated everything, and I figured out what I needed to say yes and become their employee to accept the offer. So for example, my approach would be something like this. Hey, hiring manager, I reviewed the offer and I am so excited to join your team. I was wondering if I could get 43,000 salary and 10 days of PTO. I'll resign today and can start in 2 weeks. And then I'll also withdraw my candidacy from all other interviews and companies that I'm exploring. And then just stop talking and wait for them to talk. Now, if you don't have a job to resign from, just leave that part out. But that terminology is powerful because it's basically giving you the leverage that they know you're going to accept the offer if they get you what you just asked for, right? And chances are, if it's reasonable, they'll go and try to get it. Now they might come back, they might come back and give me 42 or 41, who knows? But then you deal with the information as it comes. But if you can say, if you get me X, Y, and Z, I will start and withdraw my candidacy from all the other opportunities I'm exploring. They know that you're going to be hired if they get you that, and chances are they'll get it for you.
That's awesome. Okay, Falcons, pause here, rewind, and write down everything Renee just said and keep it on a sheet of paper or a post-it note so that you can, it is perfectly appropriate in these moments. I enter every professional conversation with notes in front of me so that I just feel more confident in those moments where maybe you're experiencing heightened nerves. So it would be perfectly appropriate to almost have those bullet points or the script right in front of you before you go to make that call so that you aren't caught having to think off the top of your head. And don't forget something.
Yeah, great suggestion, McKenna. I would have those notes right in front of you and read it verbatim. Because you're going to feel, if you've never negotiated a job before, you're going to be nervous. You're going to feel emotional about it. And whatever you can do to say, this is what I'm going to ask for. And then once you've done it, you're going to be like, yeah. And if you get what you want, you're going to be like, super, yeah. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So writing it down is great advice.
Okay, good stuff. Well, and then kind of in that kind of plays into the next question, but what does the remainder of the process look like? So after a student communicates what they want to the company, what does the rest of the process look like typically?
Yeah. So if you're negotiating and they have to redo some of the offer letter, make sure you get everything in writing at the end of what you've negotiated. So just ask, when can I expect the revised offer letter? And make sure that you read through and everything that you agreed upon is in there as well. And then, a lot of times companies are really proactive and they'll send it to you, but just make sure you stay on top of it as well and you have that revised information before, a lot of people, you have to sign the documents or start the background check or whatnot, but make sure you've got that revised offer letter because that is what, that's what's set in stone then.
Mm-hmm. And it confirms that everybody's agreeing to the same thing. And if you had to go back and forth a couple times, then you both have it in writing. So if something were to end up being different, day one, a month in, a couple months in, then you have something to go back to consult. So that's so important.
And if they send you the offer letter and they miss something, so in my case, say they forgot to change the PTO to 10 days and it was still said 7, just say, oh, hey, I noticed we didn't get the part about PTO updated. I think we agreed upon 10. Just be forthright and communicate with them and just be, they'll then revise it and get it sent to you.
Mm-hmm. And then save it in a spot where you'll remember where it is.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I feel like we've done a great job kind of covering all steps of the process. Now, this is more or less just for fun. But what are items students should avoid or the not to do's in the negotiation process?
Yeah, there's a lot of not to do's because you can turn off an employer and you don't ever want someone to rescind their offer. So when negotiating, don't say, I hate to ask for more, but like that makes you appear you don't deserve what you're asking for. When you're asking for what you want, be confident about it and you deserve it. So feel that you deserve it. Another thing we don't like to hear is don't say, I'm a top performer. I expect to get paid at the top of your salary range. No, new college graduate, that's not how it works at our company, right? So don't say things like that either. And then the one that companies probably my least favorite, don't say, I need more money because I have student loans to pay. Yeah, okay. But you're getting this job because you went to college. So avoid, those are some common things you just want to avoid.
Anything that is kind of based off of your personal situation. So, okay, yeah, you do have student loans, but that's not a reason or a justification to the company for why you should be earning more. That's just kind of your own personal situation. And
Exactly.
everybody's situation is different.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um Okay, well, I've learned so much. The salary ban was totally new information for me. So I'm really excited, and we'll go back and share this information with our team. But Falcons, I also hope that you took away a few nuggets. This is probably one of the most stress inducing experiences, and every situation is so personalized. So feel free to reach out or a phone call or an email away. And we're happy to help you kind of navigate these processes so that you can make it rain at the end of the day.
I love it. For me, it's the most exciting because you're going to get paid. It's the money that you're going to be able to be independent and live your lives. So go get them.
Right? Dreams are coming true. All right. Thanks, Falcons. We'll see you next week. Thanks.